Okay, let's get started on the T-clip drawing. So when we look at the T-clip drawing, we've got to decide first where we're going to get started with this drawing. If you start over here, we want that to be the 0, 0 point, so you have a couple of options. You can draw a line over 1.75 and then start drawing the lines from there on, or you can actually type in the coordinates. If you type in the coordinates, you're just going to type in the 1.75, 0, and that'll get you started over there. So you have those choices. Now, before I get started on this drawing, what I'm going to do is look at my values. So I'm looking up here. These are the half-inch increments, and then down here we have the 3/4. So in order to get those 3/4 of an inch numbers to pop up, because watch when we do this, this is set on half of an inch blocks. So when I just point my mouse to each one of those grid lines, it's either 1.5 or 2 inches. So I'm going to right click on my snap settings, and I'm going to go ahead and change my snap settings to 0.25 and then 0.25 here. If you hit the tab button, it's going to automatically update. So hit OK, and now my grid changes. So I'm going to just draw a line from 0, 0. Okay, so remember your scroll button in and out, and if you hold down on your scroll button, you can pan. So sometimes the X and the Y, it'll get moved off the screen, so you can just kind of pan it around and scroll in and out. So I'm gonna pull the line over until it gets to 1.75. If you can do that method, or you can actually type in 1.75, and you can see that my line is now at 8 degrees, so I would have to hit tab and type in 0 in order to lock that in to 0 degrees. Now there is a button down here called ortho mode. If you click on ortho mode or hit the F8 button on your keyboard, that will allow the lines to lock in vertical and horizontal, so we don't have to click on that. So I'm just going to drag my mouse over, and looking at the values here, 2.75 minus 1.75, that means that this space right here is 1.0. So I'm just going to draw my line over 1 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and look at the rest of the dimensions here. So we need to figure out what this dimension is right here. Okay, so let's look at the math for this. So the overall part is 4 inches in height. 4 inches, this is 1 inch here, and the distance between here and here is 1 inch. So 4 minus 1 minus 1, that gives us 2 inches, so we know that this dimension right there is 2 inches. So I'm going to pull my mouse up 2 inches, or just type in 2 and hit enter. And then a little bit more math, because these are 2 unknown dimensions. This part would be assumed that it's symmetrical because it's not giving us those 2 values. So we're going to take the 3.5 inches. I'm just going to do the math right here so you can see. 3.5 inches, that's the top of that T. We know the inside of the T is 1 inch. So we minus 1 inch, that gives us 2.5 inches, and since it's going to be a dimension on this side and a dimension on that side, you take the 2.5 and you divide it by 2. That gives us 1.25. Okay, so we now know that the dimension, this is 1.25 and this is 1.25. So we just use a basic math to figure these dimensions out. 1.25. Don't be intimidated by the math that we have to do. You just sometimes have to look at the drawing and think about it. So we're going up 1 inch because this dimension is 1 inch. So up 1 inch over 3.5. I'm just pulling my mouse to each one of the grids. Down 1 inch over 1 1/4. 1.25, and then back down. Okay, so the dimensions over here are going to be the same as over here on this side. So if this was 1 inch, this is also 1 inch. So I'm going to pull my mouse over 1 inch. Okay, and now I'm at the point where I need to lay out this angle. So you could use your coordinates. You could calculate the coordinates for this. You could say that you know it's a 1.75, and then you know the distance is up 3 inches because of the distance here. So when you type it, while you're in a command, type in. If you type in the coordinates 1.75 and hit the tab button and then type in 3 and hit enter. Oops, that just made a, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. I forgot to go down to my command line, so I'm going to undo that. Where is my undo? My screen is now, I'm going to just click on undo right here. So we'll do that down here on the bottom. So I'll type in the at 1.75 and then comma 3. Okay, because we know it's 1.75 over and then up 3 units. So that puts that angle. So this is an alternative way than drawing the box. On the other side, I'll lay out the 2 legs of the triangle so you can see how that works. So let's move on. 1 inch, back over 6.5, and then down 1 inch. Alright, so over here, I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to erase that first line that we started off. So if I drew my line 1.75, and then went up 3 inches, that gives me that starting point, and then I can just drag my mouse back down, and notice that little green box right there is pointing to the end point. That is the end point of the line that this was 1 inch right here. So erasing those lines that we don't need anymore. Let's just go ahead and turn the grid off and take a look at it. So there we go. There is the T-clip, and it should be laid out. Let's just pull some dimensions. I'll show you how to just check the dimensions. 6.5, 4 inches tall. This is 1 inch. This piece inside should be 2 inches. What else did they give us? 1 inch on the inside. This should be 1 inch. From this edge over here to this edge should be 1.75. Leaving this at 2.75. And from here over to this edge right here should be 4.75. There we go. So you don't have to do those dimensions. I was just kind of showing you that it all works out and all of the dimensions are correct. So there is the T-clip. So you would save that in your Z drive under Geometric Construction.